Leitner, and welcome to Rochester Rising, where we amplify the stories of Rochester entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode 220 of the podcast. Welcome to Rochester Rising, a weekly podcast that tells the stories of entrepreneurs in Rochester, Minnesota. You can listen into a brand new episode every Wednesday, wherever you prefer to listen in to your podcast content. And each Thursday, we release a short story based on the podcast, and you can read that and many more stories about entrepreneurship in Rochester, Minnesota on our website at rochesterrising.org. Rochester Rising is the storytelling arm of Collider, which is a Rochester-based nonprofit that supports early-stage entrepreneurs and works toward the vision of a community with zero barriers to entrepreneurship. You can find out more about Collider on our website at collider.mn. Today on the podcast, I got to chat with Bryan Wattier, owner of MegaWatt Entertainment. Bryan is a native of South Dakota who moved to Rochester in the late 1990s to work at Mayo Clinic. He now balances his job at a telehealth respiratory startup with his business MegaWatt Entertainment, amongst many other things, which he'll share with you today. Bryan launched MegaWatt Entertainment in 2018 in Rochester to bring people together through gaming. MegaWatt Entertainment is a luxury video game truck. It's a 30-foot long mobile trailer that brings the party to you. We have a really great conversation to share with Bryan today about he developed the idea for his business, how his past experiences contributed to what he's doing today, how his experience with cancer prompted him to launch his business and live life with no regrets, and much more. So we'll launch right into the podcast today with Bryan and MegaWatt Entertainment. Well, thanks for doing this today and connecting via Zoom as we're kind of transitioning between co-working spaces. This honestly probably was the only way this would have worked. So thank you for doing this today.
My pleasure.
So I wanted to start by asking you, what are some of your favorite things to do outside of work?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, it depends on the season, I think. Just this past snowy, it was not too bad of winter, but usually we do some snowshoeing as a family. And I've got brand new cross-country skis that I haven't been able to use for 3 years. I keep intending to get the bindings changed, but something else comes in and I never get to use those. So I got brand new skis. So it's like a lot of outdoor stuff. We got a boat last year, so we've been boating on the river. Just camping. We've got a little pop-up camper. So anything that seems to be towable or have a small engine seems to be a lot of fun for us.
There seems to be a theme there.
there's a theme there. Yeah. And it could be a sickness. I don't know yet. But, and I'm also a musician, so I have played around town and in Rochester here with Mr. John Sievers. So it's a nice community to just kind of do different things, but we're close to the country, so we can get out and enjoy the outside. That's what I like to do.
Nice. So where do you put your boat in? Where's the best place around here that you found? Where do you like to boat?
That's a good question. You know, we're newbie boaters, and so we're just trying everything. We've been on the river more than any other place. Wabasha, we've launched out there. La Crosse, La Crescent area. That's nice. The river is just an amazing. I had no concept of boating on the river. Maybe I did it twice on somebody else's boat. But Lake Zumbro is usually where we've been going, and yeah, it's just easy. We're learning.
I've heard Lake Zumbro is pretty good for doing that kind of thing. Yeah, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so we actually had a family dock and stuff, and like you float it down the river, and everyone would have to like participate, and then you'd have to catch it and bring it in, and yeah. It was a whole thing. And my uncle was obsessed with Mickey Mouse, like the old like Mickey Mouse. Okay. So we had a huge, I think it was so you knew where you were going when you went out and came back in, but like a huge, I don't even know how big it was. In my mind, it was enormous. are you from Rochester? If not, what brought you here? And then what keeps you here?
All right. So, yeah, I am not from Rochester. I'm actually from South Dakota, and I moved to Rochester in 1998. And what brought me here was the Mayo Clinic. My background is in respiratory therapy, so I was able to get a job at the Mayo Clinic right out of school, and I worked there for 16 years. And a lot of, I may have been like 22, but a lot of people that age, when they moved to Rochester and in that era, they just would say, "Hey, I'm going to stay here for 5 years, get my experience, and leave." Well, that story didn't play out. I met my wife at Mayo, and we both worked in the cardiac ICU, and we hit it off, and now we're married 16 years later still, and have 2 kids, a couple of dogs, and a boat, and all sorts of other things.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like that's such a common story. Everyone's like, it's going to be 5 months, 5 years, and then it's 15 years. That's the same thing with me. I think it'll be 15 years. Close this summer, 14 or 15. It just happens.
It just happens. Yeah.
Pretty similar story.
Yeah, I think a lot of Rochesterites suffer from that. But you know what? After traveling and being in other places and hearing other people's stories, it's a great community. I mean, it really is.
So we wanted to talk about MegaWatt Entertainment today, but I wanted to start by asking you what your history with gaming is, because I feel like it has to be a passion. Maybe I'm wrong, but what's your history with gaming, and what role has that played in your life?
That's a loaded question, because I may blow the whole concept up. I was a gamer way back when Atari was popular, and then Nintendo Entertainment Systems and Segas. And I got to high school, and my life was a little chaotic, and basically sold all the games, went to college, didn't understand the new controllers, the new game platforms. So I never really did a whole bunch of gaming, like a lot of people in college. I might have been just on that cusp. I had other things that I was interested in doing, but I'm not really a big gamer, to be honest. And that may surprise a lot of people, but when I decided to start the MegaWatt business, it was around 2011 when I was kind of looking at having my own business and doing something different. And about that time, we had the food trucks coming into town in Rochester. And I was sort of intrigued with that idea of having a business that was mobile. And I am also a musician. And so, I kind of understood entertainment, kind of portable entertainment. And it just sort of naturally flowed that this is an entertainment business. And I like to talk a little bit about, I don't know if some of the listeners know about the love languages. And this is sort of a book kind of for couples and relationships. So there's a love language of gifts, acts of service, words of affirmation, touch, things like that. So I've found out that my love language is acts of service. And so it's sort of natural for me. And somehow the game trailer is a way for me to do that on a massive scale and basically spoil a whole bunch of kids and send them home happy. Well, actually, they don't have to go anywhere. We come to them. So,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like we forget too that like food trucks really weren't a thing in like mobile services like this until like 2016, 17, even 18. Like they were really not a thing in this community, or not something that people understood very well.
Yeah, and it was really on the front edge, and the city didn't enjoy having them in the downtown area. And so I looked at that and I said, there's too much, around that, but I'm still interested, in having some sort of a mobile business. And I thought, well, what kind of entertainment is in Rochester? And we have a lot of busy professionals. We've got a lot of busy moms and dads. Hey, how about video games? Video games are popular. They've been around for a long time, and I believe they'll be around for a long time yet to come. So I thought, hey, how about we bring it to people's houses on a big scale? 1 or 2 game consoles, yeah, that's doable. When you have 7 screens, 750-inch screens, and 3 consoles, possibility for every station. I mean, there's a lot of options and choice, and the whole idea about it is bringing people together. And of course, if we're looking at this from a mid-pandemic idea, it's probably not such a good idea to bring people together, unfortunately. So really, the pandemic kind of put a crimp in our business model, because we originally were advertising, around 28 people could play at the same time in the trailer. It's 30 feet long, so there's enough room prior to COVID. Now we've really shrunk the numbers down inside. So it's very it's changed, but it's still relevant.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It definitely brings people together, and it's something that will kind of continue. I don't see it ending. And I'm not a gamer at all by any means, but growing up, we had an Atari, and that was one of the things. Like, I mean, there are many things from childhood that people remember, but that was one of the things. Like, it was special when we all sat down and played like Frogger and Pac-Man, because that's what we had, and that was a lot of fun, and something that I remember, like, you pull out, the pull-out couch, which I don't even think those exist anymore, because that's a whole thing that is just kind of gross, but that's something that I continue to remember, from whenever people were playing Ataris and Pac-Man and Frogger.
You bring up a great point. I mean, I hear it time and time again. Oh, I haven't played this game for so long. This is awesome. And one of the things is we bring some nostalgia, to the families that are playing. The parents come in. We have games for the parents' age. We bring in the kids. They've got the newer games, and it's fun to watch the kids try to have the parents play on the newer systems with all the buttons and different, Xbox controllers and stuff. And then when you give a kid just a simple Nintendo Entertainment, the square controllers, they're looking at it like, what do I do with this? It has 4 buttons on it.
Yeah,
it's humorous, but it's the connection again.
Yep. So I wanted to ask you about kind of your past experiences and present experiences. So, MegaWatt is kind of a side business for you. And you've had a lot of other experiences from, education, medicine, respiratory therapy. You've been director of clinical education at Mayo, a staff respiratory therapist, an adjunct professor, and now involved with a telerespiratory startup. So can you talk a little bit about that and maybe how that's contributed to MegaWatt?
Yeah, my personality is I just enjoy a lot of different things, but in some way they all kind of, come together for me. So I take bits and pieces from different aspects of my experiences to sort of innovate. And, the education side of me, I have a degree in adult education. I was very interested all the time in learning technologies. So that's a little aspect, some technology. Well, there's a lot of technology in the trailer. Facilitating. I did a lot of that with, educating undergraduate students in respiratory care. And I was an adjunct professor for Concordia University in the Twin Cities. So I was teaching online. Well, there's some technology, and the facilitating is getting kids to focus in on one thing, for an hour and a half. So the people aspect is huge in doing a game trailer. The technology, I've had plenty of opportunity to play around with new tech, and the game trailer is just a bunch of wires and electricity flowing through it all. But the special seasoning of all of it is the connections. And now with this startup, I mean, I've really taken a lot of business cues from MegaWatt on how to run a business. So being the operations director for the telehealth company, I feel like I'm pretty valuable to my CEO and owner, having some sort of business background that we can kind of communicate, on the same parallel together. So he was actually the one person that encouraged me to do the business, even while working for him. So, and he's expressed that he's enjoyed watching, the game trailer do this kind of thing. There's in every business, there's a lot of ups and downs, and you just have to work through it. And it's never the end of the world. You just figure a way to get through it. So we've had plenty of those in the MegaWatt business, as well as the startup, that I'm working in now.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I'm reading this book right now. I believe it's called Conscious Leadership or Conscientious Leadership by John Mackey, who started Whole Foods. Really, really good. It actually just came out. I got it from the library, but yeah, it's just about, leading with honesty, empathy. But one of the things they say is like, and I've heard this before, it's not like a new concept, is that whatever you put out in the world, whatever you manifest, that's what you're going to get back. So like you were saying, a business has lots of ups and downs. If you focus on the down and be like, this is not working, like COVID was awful, like I could get like 2 people in my truck, then everything just is awful. But, if you see that opportunity, and not like it always be like a rah, the sky is blue and there's sunshine, but, I firmly believe what you put out, that attitude is what you're going to get back.
I 100% agree. Absolutely. Yeah. People, they want to do business with people that have a brighter disposition and a brighter outlook. So we try to do that, when people call the trailer, or the 800 number, or get online, the party starts there. So just the same with when I'm talking to people, clients, working on the telehealth business, the party's always going,
Yeah, that's their first interaction with the business. So it needs to be a good one.
Absolutely.
So I was interested in learning more about you play the keyboard, you're a musician. How did that, I love this story because it's like, all these things fit into each other and weave through each other. How did you originally get started with music?
Well, it started with piano lessons way back. I think I may have been 8, 9. Nowadays, kids start super early. I was kind of like in that, if you take that lens, it's like, man, you're practically an adult trying to, learn piano. I only took piano lessons maybe 4, 5, 6 years, and just really enjoyed it and kept going. So I'm a jazz musician. I like jazz piano, combo work, and so small groups. But I really got my interest in that in high school. There was a play that was put on by our high school. The choir, the band, all the actors and actresses. It was the 1940s radio hour, which is it was presented here at the Civic Theater not long ago. It was a blast from the past for me. But in that, I got this book that it looked like 100 people had played out of it. It was bound and sewed up with twine or something, but it was chord sheets. It was basically how, the jazz musicians of the day, jazz musicians just need to actually listen, but this is how they conveyed their notation and how to play. And it was totally foreign to me because I was used to playing, left hand, right hand, read music. So I had to figure this whole system out, and I did it through that entire play season. After that, I just, I went to college and I had some lessons, and it just kind of carried on. I kept listening and learning and listening and learning. And when I moved to Rochester in '98, there wasn't a whole lot of music scene, happening here. And I connected with my sax player in 2003, Dr. Joe Duraney. We've done a lot of work together. Actually, I worked in the ICU that he has, in the cardiac ICU. And from there, just like a lot of opportunities to play around sort of opened up after 2003, 2004. And I mean, he and I, and about a year after we connected, our drummer came on, Randy Nelson. So we recorded a CD in 07, 08, somewhere in that range. We've played in different states and all sorts of different venues, and it's just been a lot of fun. But that's kind of a brief history of where the music started, and the music continues still.
That's super cool. Super cool. So I wanted to dive more into MegaWatt. So we've talked about it a little bit, but just so everyone really understands what it is, it's a mobile truck and people rent it for parties and can play. You have a ton of games. So can you break down like what it is and
Sure.
What people can expect from an experience with MegaWatt?
Absolutely. So let me just start with the physical, aspect of it. And then we can talk about, what they would expect if they booked a party with us. So the trailer itself is 30 feet long. If you drive around the northeast part of Rochester in these little 1950s neighborhoods, most of those houses are 30 feet long. I owned one, so I do know. And I always based everything off of that front of that house because I knew it was like 31 feet. So if you park the trailer there, it's going to be that span. It's 8 feet wide and about 12 feet tall. I'm 6'5", and I can stand up inside it, no problem. If you're looking at, you can see the picture behind me here. On the outside, there's 2 screens, so I can open up the side of the trailer, and people can stand outside and play. On the inside, it actually looks like a limousine. It's got it's probably a 25-foot bench. So kids can sit on the lower level of the bench or on the higher level. I've got laser lights in there, colored LEDs that just kind of flash and do all sorts of stuff. And every station has about a 50-inch TV. So the ones on the outside are 50-inch. So that's when you're sitting, less than 8 feet away from them, they're, gigantic. And we just have console games. So, people have these at home, the Nintendos, the Xbox, the PlayStation. We have all of those. We just do it on a massive scale. We can system link those systems, and we have enough controllers for everybody. So I took a count one time. It takes over 100 batteries to keep everything going because they're all remote. They don't have wires. So I've purchased stock in batteries. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't, but I should. And so when someone books with us, because we're mobile, we get their information. It's typically a kid's birthday party. And I like to say the age ranges from, 10 plus or minus 2. So 8 to 12 is typically the range of age. But we've done, I just did a bachelor party last week, and I did a party for a gentleman who was turning 50, and his entire family booked out the trailer for him. And he was a very good gamer. I was very impressed. But it's fairly simple to book with us. Essentially, you can just go online and check out. I've got the whole schedule out there. People can pick their own time, and they basically rent that time slot. There's a few questions on the website, find out some of their preferences. And because we have smaller numbers, I mean, we have a greater variety of things that we can do. If somebody wants to have an all racing sort of party, we can put Mario Kart and different racing games on each of the screens. Call of Duty is a very popular game. We can do all of those sorts of games. We can do dancing or singing games. There's a wide variety of things that we can do. The one thing is people think, is your target kids? Do you target kids? No, our target market really isn't kids, to be honest. It's actually moms, because moms are the ones that book the parties. And they have to set up for the party and clean up for the party after the party. So we just make it simple for moms to basically be the hero for the day. And the kids, hey, they had a great time. So that's pretty much the gist of how we can save the day on a party. Book out a couple months is great. We can book out a year. We've even saved some moms, something fell through and we basically got to the party that Friday or Saturday. So
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for moms. There's no cleanup or tear down. You just pull in, when the party's over, leave and, everything goes in the truck. There's no setup, Yep,
it all stays there. And we've got a great connection with Toppers here in Rochester. So people can actually, book their party and get their Toppers pizza. And if people live in Rochester, they'll deliver it, before the party or however they want to do that. So that's kind of a neat thing. One-stop shop. Yeah.
So you service, I'm assuming primarily Rochester, but it looks like 100-mile radius too. You'll service.
Yes. Yeah. We actually, a very big clientele of ours are in Woodbury. And I can't count on my hands anymore how many times we've been to the west side of the Twin Cities, Edina and Lakeville and places like that. And the small towns right around Rochester really love us too. Plainview, we've been there quite often. And we've actually got a number of schools that we're hitting up for different fundraising events. So we've had a couple in Iowa. So trying to get east a little bit, Winona and La Crosse. Getting that area just hasn't opened up quite yet.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like there's really not much competition even in this local market. There's nobody really doing what you're doing. It doesn't sound like.
There's one other trailer here in town. And we have, everybody's got an individual way of doing things. So the way my competitor, I don't want to call him a competitor because I think having two options in town is great. I think we complement each other. He's got things on his trailer that I don't have and vice versa. So, but yeah, we're trying to spread the word. And I think, in the Twin Cities, it's been around for a little while. And I don't do any advertising there, but I do get a lot of calls. And so just still trying to educate the Rochester market of what a game trailer is and how people might use it.
So you said you were interested in doing a mobile type business. What was the reason for wanting to do a mobile type business? And then how did you say, I want this mobile business to be a gaming business?
Well, I think that in my mind, I was thinking that if I had to invest in having a brick and mortar sort of location, first of all, at that point in my life, I don't think my brain could conceive a business that I could do. But I knew I could entertain people, and I knew that there had to be something that I could do that was reproducible. And, over the 3.5 years that we've done it, we've really come into a nice pattern of how to do the parties. So way back in 2011, when I was thinking about this and finally opened the business in 2018, I grew quite a bit in my mind and how I could do things. And it was the right time. If it would have been 2011, 2013, somewhere in there, I don't think the concept would have necessarily taken off. So it was maybe too early for its time way back then, but it all sort of lined up. As a matter of fact, I had put together, nobody was building these trailers at that time. So I actually put together a binder of everything that I could find out about the electronics and doing the wiring and trailers and all this stuff. And it was like, I looked at that, I talked with my wife. I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't have any money to do this. So I put the binder on my bookshelf. It just sat there. I'd look at it every now and then. And we moved to a different part of town. The binder followed me, sat on another bookshelf. And in 2017, I actually had cancer in both my kidneys. And so I had to have both kidneys removed, and I got a kidney transplant. Recovered, and it took me quite a bit of time. But, after an experience like that, life is precious and short. And so I had this, mega motivation for, doing something for myself, and just getting out there, live life and have no regrets. Plus I have two sons. One right now is 15, one's 10. And I just wanted to show them, hey, this is America. It's a free enterprise. You can start a business. You can do these things, and you just have to work hard at it. So one of the things for them is to see that their dad can, build a business, and hey, video games are fun for them, so they're going to buy into it. There's maybe a little bit of thought about that, but yeah, that's kind of how it all played out.
Yeah, so cool. And I'm sure they're watching everything that you're doing and learning from it. And yeah, so sorry to hear about that experience, but it's such a great story that it turned into something so positive for you.
Yeah. Yep. And I think I have a ton of leadership books and whatnot. I mean, I took the mentality of like, we got to grow through this, you can be defeated, just like the ups and downs, but you kind of have to set your mind in the beginning that it's going to be fine. We're going to get through it. And so it's really kind of, that was a crucible for me as far as, getting through something, that was my brain. Everybody else was like, ooh, what's going on over there? Nervous for me and everything. I'm thinking, let's go. Let's just do this thing. So it's turning out great.
Yeah. So I was interested, like you were saying, food trucks were even super new in Rochester. Like you probably had, you said if you started in 2011, it would have been too early. 2018 was probably just right. But I'm just curious, like when you were talking about this with the city or whatever, like, was there an understanding of what it was, like licensing and stuff like that? Or was that just like, what was that process like with like a relatively new type of business in this community?
Right. So to be honest, I have a Minnesota, business license, but there's really nothing in the city that needs to be talked about really. So I don't, the city, I guess, probably doesn't know about me. They probably should. I mean, because hey, we can book their events too.
I guess it's more with the food trucks. They're like parking in places, so that was probably more of what. And you're not. You're more like going to people.
I am, going to people's houses. The max amount of time that we would be on the street is a couple of hours. There may be some, laws about that, but it's mobile and it's going to be moving. So it's not just hanging out.
Mm-hmm. We talked about in the beginning, you have a full-time job in addition to doing this. And I think that's a pretty common story for a lot of people. How does that work for you, balancing, what do you see as advantages? And I'm sure there are disadvantages too, but how does that all work together to allow you to do both things? And all the other things you do too.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good question. I think it really starts with the people around me have a lot of grace and flexibility. My daytime boss, who actually, so the telehealth company, we're virtual. I mean, that sort of makes sense. But we don't have a location in Rochester. The headquarters is in Frankenmuth, Michigan. I have one other coworker who lives in Rochester here. So we're able to get together and we, make a tour of all the coffee shops and my house and different places. So the flexibility with that is like really key. I think, if I had a job here in Rochester, it may be different, but I guess my CEO is very open to entrepreneurism. He actually owns 5 businesses. And so he's sort of a mentor to me. And that's really the grace that I need to be able to have the flexibility. And then just keeping all the plates spinning, that's a bit of a challenge. But the cool thing about the game trailer is that I don't have to show up every single day because it's not running every day. But I've got my website, I've got all my systems that are automated, and so it can kind of run in the background. The biggest thing is, when we need to go out to parties and do those, I've got sort of a following of friends and others who, sort of help out, and they get a little side gig as well. So I've got people who drive it around for me when needed. And my son, he's 15 now, but he started at 12, so he's probably the most trained out of everybody. And he's going to be getting his driver's license this year in July. And I keep teasing him that we're going to hook up the trailer and so he can try to parallel park that, for his,
that sounds awful.
I know, doesn't it? Yeah. But hey, somebody's got to drive
driving that as a 16-year-old would be like super stressful.
It is. And driving it at my age, it's stressful, and, just be very cautious and everything. The whole rig is 50 feet long. So it's like driving oh my gosh, I don't know. I've gotten good at it, and I can back it up and, get it where it needs to be. But so anyway, it's the following of people and just my friends and family who give me that grace to sort of do all sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly. You need a team, and team includes, supportive people around you, like a boss, allowing, someone that has 5 businesses, I feel they really understand the value of entrepreneurship and what that can do for an individual and community as well.
Absolutely. And having the trailer, like I mentioned before, just really has informed a lot of decisions, on that other level. Like if I was just, without that business experience of my own, I may make decisions differently for my owner, So it's kind of like he sort of bought into an education system for me, but I get to run it.
Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about COVID. I imagine that was pretty devastating for this type of business since it is such close quarters. What has the past year been like for the business, and what are you seeing now that, people are getting vaccinated, they're getting more comfortable? What has this year been like?
Yeah, so I'll back up to 2019. That was our first full year and our best year. I did somewhere around 80 some parties. 2020 came around. I think I probably did under 20 parties. So it was basically shut down for a year. And, again, ups and downs, figure it out. I see now we're kind of on the upswing. People are ready to come back out, and there's a little bit more risk tolerance, I guess you would say, with COVID. Not that we should be, going out just willy-nilly, but people are like, hey, I'm in my pod, This is my family. I've got these friends. I trust them, and they've been booking. So I've seen the business start to come back. It's sort of springing as we speak. I had a lot of big events in 2020 that said, nope, we can't do it. Now they're coming back to be able to do those on a modified way. So it's coming back, and I think everybody's hopeful, and I'm hopeful as well.
So you can do some stuff outside too, right? As long as it's not raining, can you bring some of the stuff out into like a driveway or a yard or something, which has to make it a little bit easier? Yeah.
The electronics usually stay in, but as a result of the 2020 COVID, everything, I built 9 holes of mini golf. So the holes are 2 feet wide by 8 feet long, and I can lay those out, and we've done that on the outside. So it spreads people out. I've got yard games, and I'll be adding sort of a Nerf tag as well this year. So we'll have plenty of things to do in and around the trailer.
So it's a full party in the trailer that comes to you. It literally has everything.
Yes. Yeah. And this past winter, my garage has pulled the tail of that because I had to put it somewhere.
Oh, yeah, that's always the thing. It's got to go somewhere. So you said, an analogy I loved of, keeping all these plates spinning. So this is another plate that you've kept spinning. So why keep this plate spinning? What do you love about running your own business or running a gaming business? What brings you back to doing this time after time?
That's a great question. I don't want to sound crass about this, but really running the business is sort of my game. It's something that is enjoyable to me, thinking of how I can serve my customers better. I really do enjoy when, the kids come in the trailer and their eyes just get like huge. They can't believe that this thing is sitting in front of their driveway and they get to play in it for the next 2 hours. And they just lose themselves inside. And that acts of service and that piece just really is a huge thing for me. And just, the parents too. I mean, the nostalgia factor, I love bringing that to the parents. Typically, the parents will come in and sort of be kind of shy. That doesn't fly in the trailer. We have to get them playing. We find some game that they enjoy. And I've had plenty of moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas playing Pac-Man or, Mario. By the end of it, they don't want to leave. The kids are ready to go. And sometimes they're the hard ones to get out. But it's just that satisfaction in knowing that this is something different. And now actually with COVID and, people have changed their entertainment, I think, a little bit. This comes to them. We clean it. We've always cleaned the trailer. So that never really changed. But they have an environment that they can feel comfortable in and still do something different. And if they have any fears of going out into public or in other entertainment spaces, this should kind of lessen that fear for them.
Mm-hmm. So that was my last question for you. It's a wonderful conversation. I'll just ask you to wrap up for any final thoughts you have for anyone listening in, and where's the best place for people to find out more about MegaWatt? Where can they connect to you?
Sure. Well, I'll start with that. You can go to MegaWattEntertainment.com. You can search us out on Facebook at MegaWatt Entertainment MN. That's our handle there. Also, phone number, I don't know, people really don't call that much, but 507-320-3777. It'll come right to my phone. But wrapping up, essentially, we really want to expand and educate the market of Rochester about what we do. We have some nice partnerships with the United Way to give people discounts, and the Toppers Pizza partnership is awesome. Always looking for businesses that can bring us out and have an event for their employees or families. Family events is great in the summertime, and that provides us a little bit of exposure. So one of the things, it's really difficult to see how fun it is by just looking at a still picture, but really seeing is believing about the game trailer. You just got to come in and experience it, and you'll see it's actually pretty fun.
Well, thanks so much for taking time to do this today, share your story, share more about your business. I really appreciate it, Bryan.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much to Bryan for taking time and sharing his story on the podcast today. You can find links to learn more about MegaWatt Entertainment in our show notes, and please check in tomorrow on the Rochester Rising website for our short story based on this podcast conversation with Bryan. You can find that story and many more on our website at rochesterrising.org. Thanks so much for tuning into the podcast today. We really appreciate you spending some of your time with us today to learn more about entrepreneurship and business development taking place in Rochester, Minnesota. It's a huge, huge help to us if you make sure you're subscribed to our podcast wherever you listen in, and that you rate the podcast so that more people can find it. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll be here next Wednesday with a brand new episode.